I've heard people say that you can pick your friends but not your family, and that is very true. I know because someone didn't pick me. Growing up, my younger sister Mariah and I were always close. We didn't have one of those volatile sibling relationships you hear about. In fact, we were more like best friends. I am 3 years older than her, and while we had our typical childhood squabbles, we always had each other's backs. I helped her with homework, shared clothes, and we stayed up late talking about our future dreams, boys, and everything in between. I thought we had a strong bond. I've always looked out for her. Being the older sister meant that was my role, and I embraced it. So when she told me she was getting married to her longtime boyfriend Jake, I was genuinely thrilled for her. I had watched their relationship blossom over the years, and though they had their ups and downs, it was clear they were in love. As soon as she got engaged, I assumed I'd be by her side during the whole process. I was so excited to help with wedding planning, picking out dresses, planning the bridal shower, and celebrating this huge milestone in her life. I mean, we've always been close, so it didn't even cross my mind that I wouldn't be deeply involved. But a few weeks before the wedding, I got hit with a gut punch. I was chatting with our cousin Maggie, just catching up about the wedding. She casually asked if I'd gotten my invitation yet. I froze. Invitation? What invitation? She could see the confusion on my face and quickly tried to backtrack, but it was too late. Maggie knew something I didn't, and it left me reeling. I hadn't been invited to my own sister's wedding. How is that even possible? At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe the invite got lost in the mail. I tried to give Mariah the benefit of the doubt, but the knot in my stomach only grew. That night, I called Mariah, trying to sound casual, but my voice shook as I asked her about it. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Oh, yeah, we're just having a small, intimate wedding. You know, we're only inviting our very best friends and mom and dad." Her words echoed in my head, and I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. Very best friends? What was I then? Some distant relative? I wasn't even worthy of attending the most important day of her life? I could feel tears welling up, but I bit my tongue. I didn't want to explode on the phone. Instead, I calmly told her that I was hurt. I told her that I loved her and had always been there for her, and I didn't understand why I wasn't considered worthy of attending her wedding. She brushed it off, saying the wedding was small, the venue was tiny, and there just wasn't enough room. She assured me it wasn't personal, but it felt deeply personal. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I left it at that. But the hurt lingered. I didn't push it further. But inside, I felt like something had broken between us. Fast forward a few weeks, and Mariah and Jake have returned from their honeymoon. I hadn't heard much from her during that time, which wasn't surprising. After all, why would she want to chat with me when she hadn't even wanted me at her wedding? But then, out of the blue, she called me. I was cautiously hopeful, thinking maybe she wanted to talk about what had happened, maybe even apologize. But no, she was calling because she needed something. Her car had broken down, and she asked if she could borrow mine for a couple of weeks while hers was in the shop. I was stunned. Of all the things she could have asked me for, she wanted to borrow my car after excluding me from one of the most important events in her life? I couldn't believe the nerve she had to call me for a favor like nothing had happened. I told her no, firmly but calmly. I said, "I don't feel comfortable lending my car to someone who didn't even think I was important enough to invite to their wedding." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before she snapped back, saying I was being petty and holding a grudge. She couldn't believe I'd refused to help her over something so small. But to me, it wasn't small at all. The wedding, my exclusion, it wasn't about the event itself. It was about what it symbolized, the disregard for our relationship, the way she had casually sidelined me without a second thought. I couldn't just pretend that didn't matter. After we hung up, I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Mariah must have called my parents because now they're involved too. They started bombarding me with calls, telling me I was being unreasonable, that I should let her borrow the car because family helps family. But where was that philosophy when it came to her wedding? Where was the sense of family then, when I was left out in the cold? They said it wasn't a big deal that I wasn't invited, that weddings are stressful and sometimes tough decisions have to be made. But I didn't buy that. They just didn't want to acknowledge how hurtful it was. Every time the phone rings, it's someone else telling me I'm being petty, or holding on to resentment. And maybe I am holding on to something, but I think I'm justified. How am I supposed to just lend her my car, act like everything is fine, when she didn't even care enough about me to include me in the most important day of her life? It feels like my feelings don't matter to anyone. I've always believed in being there for family, but this feels different. It's not just about the car, it's about respect, about being valued. So am I the asshole for refusing to lend her my car after she didn't even invite me to her wedding?